Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to cover a fundamental chess strategy idea, the space advantage. In chess, space is power. Controlling more squares on the board gives you pieces greater mobility and restricts your opponent's play, often leading to a decisive attack on one of the wings. The space advantage is usually achieved by moving pawns forward. The side that has more space often has a lasting initiative because it has more options for moving its pieces around. On the other hand, the side that lacks space often struggles to find good squares for its pieces, making the defense difficult. Let's take a look at the position on the board. It's black to move. But what exactly black can do here when it's so cramped? Black pieces can barely move. Look at this bishop, it has no moves. Rook has only one move. Knight cannot go forward because it's restricted by g4 pawn. Other knight cannot go forward. Queen cannot do much. Bishop sits on d7, having only one move back. So black is completely restricted. The only real hope for black here is that somehow it can build a fortress, the position that white cannot break by force. But unless a miracle happens, white should be able to win here sooner or later by breaking into opponent's territory. Now let's look at the beginning of this game to see how it's even happened that black got so squeezed. This was a game played a few months ago between two solid club players, both rated around 2100. The opening was the French defense. Let's see how the game started. We have French defense on the board. Here white plays knight c3, called main variation, or knight d2, called Darash, moves pawn forward, called advanced variation, or sometimes even trading pawns in the middle, called exchange variation. Okay, here white moved pawn forward. This move is called advanced variation. It immediately puts some pressure on black because it prevents black's development. So now black needs to fight back. Typical ways to fight back is c5 or f6, trying to challenge white's center. Most popular move is c5, attacking the center. It was played. Now white shouldn't take this pawn. It would be a bad idea. Let's see what happens if we take. Bishop immediately develops, black controls center, and white a bit worse already. This is a bad idea, so let's play normal. White played c3, supporting the center. Now black needs to attack center again. So knight comes, attacking d4 pawn one more time. White protects the center. Now black puts more pressure. Attacking pawn on d4, third time, also looking at b2 pawn. Now white needs to respond. What to do here? If you simply develop bishop, for example, for e3, then you lose pawn on b2. Bad position. So white needs to deal with this pressure, and typical ways to play here, bishop e2, just developing and preparing castle, playing a3 and preparing before move, grabbing the space on queen side, or developing bishop to d3, starting some gambit play. This is gambit because black can win central pawn. So black can take and then play bishop d7. Notice that black is not taking pawn immediately, because if they try to grab the pawn, this would be a famous trap from French defense. So if black grabs pawn, white is winning tactically. White will take also. Now queens are aligned on t-file, and bishop b5 check follows. This would be discovered. Attack with check, and black loses queen. So let's go back, and in this particular game, a3 was played. Again, the idea to play b4 and stop black's pressure on the center. Okay, how black can play here? Numerous moves. For example, they can try a5, preventing b4 at the moment. Black can play flexible move, bishop d7. Black can try to get knight to f5 by playing knight e7 and then knight f5, or even knight h6 and then knight f5. Black also can try to play c4, locking the position. This is actually the most popular move on Grandmaster level. Now we have locked position where each side will play somewhere where they have space. White has space on king side because they have pawn on e5, and black has pawn on c4, squeezing white on queen side. So white will prepare play with f5, black will prepare play with b4. Also pieces can play here. For example, black can play knight a5, bishop d7, so knight b3, maybe bishop a4, trying to create piece play on queen side. Okay, in this particular game, black played knight h6. So the idea is to bring knight on f5 and put more pressure on the pawn. Okay, white responded before, and now black makes serious mistake. They move pawn forward. What happens? That now it's impossible to put pressure on d4 pawn. Even if knight comes to f5 and aims at d4, nothing happens because white has pawn on c3, preventing this attack. So black is basically squeezed. Now compare c4 at this moment with c4 one move earlier. If black played c4 here, it would be a good move. Now white obviously cannot play b4 because it would be en passant here and white is losing pawn. But if in this position, after b4, black plays c4 like it happened in the game, now no en passant, and black sits squeezed. Okay, let's see what happened next. a4. Okay, white grabs more space on the queen side and also opens a3 square for its pieces. Maybe knight can come, maybe bishop can come at some moment to go diagonal. Okay, black played knight f5. Now, this move is useless because pawn on c3 supports pawn on d4 and nothing can happen on d4 square. If black tries to take on d4, they would simply lose material. Okay, white gains more space on the king side. Pawn moved forward. So black tries to develop. More space grab. Now also pushing knight back. So knight goes back to e7. And white grabs more space with h5. Black tries to fight with advancement of white pawns. And h6. Here we have the position where we started. Black sits completely squeezed and hopes that miracle happens. That somehow white is not able to find the way to break through. But white finds a way. Let's see what happened here. After queen c5, white finds good maneuver. Bishop g5 followed by bishop f6. Okay, black plays nothing move on the other side. It's not helping much. And bishop comes, attacks rook, the only move it's possible. And now h7 pawn becomes a target after rook moved. So white plays knight g5. No, turns out black cannot save h7 pawn. Position is bad. Black plays on the other side. White simply grabs pawn here. Black tries to castle. And white plays a bit unusual move. The trade on f8. It looks like a strange move because knight can go back and knight stronger than bishop. But this is tactical trade. Let's look at this e7 knight. It's supported by bishop and supported by other knight. So two defenders. So with this trade, one defender is removed. Now only knight protects knight. And next move is easy to guess. White can play b5. But before white played b5, they moved pawn forward. Now they're simply threatening to promote queen. Black gives away exchange. Now white can simply take rook and be a lot of points up, but white proceeds with the original idea, b5. Now knight is attacked, trade of pawns happens, and knight on e7 is lost. Knight moved to a5, bishop was taken knight. Black had enough in this game, and they simply resigned. And now let's go to our next example. In this game, former world champion Magnus Carlsen demonstrates how to exploit a space advantage. Magnus Carlsen plays white. Playing black is a Norwegian chess grandmaster Digital Lee, solid player who was a Norwegian chess champion in 2009 and 2010. Okay, so opening is Sicilian, and black plays a bit rare move. It's played, but not as often. This is called hyper-accelerated dragon. The idea of this move order is to create some extra options for black comparing to regular dragon or accelerated dragon. However, white also gets its fair share of extra setups. For example, white can play c3 and d4 here, forming strong pawn center. But Magnus Carlsen plays straightforward, just d4, regular move. Black takes on d4, knight takes, and white plays c4. And now we switch to accelerated dragon. We have so-called Marasi bind on the board, named after Giza Marasi, a Hungarian grandmaster who was one of the leading chess players in the world in his time. The Marasi bind is a pawn structure with white pawns sitting on c4 and e4, helping to control possible counterplay pawn moves such as b5 and d5. This pawn structure is called a bind because it gives white a long-term space advantage. Let's see what happens next. Knight is attacked on d4, so white protects. Development follows. This is alternative order of moves. Black could castle as well. And development is finished. Now black goes for trade in the center. Okay, but let's see why. One of the main strategic ideas of black in this position is to exchange knights in the center and then bring bishop to c6. But why does black want to exchange knights? Because black lacks space. A player who has more space usually has more options to move his pieces to favorable positions. On the other hand, a player who lacks space might often have his pieces bump into each other, making maneuvering difficult. So one of the main strategic ideas to remember for the positions with space advantage that the player with a space advantage should avoid trades of pieces unless such exchanges lead to some other advantage. Maybe some weakness, maybe bishop pair, maybe extra material. Okay, but let's see. Trade happened, and black regroups bishop, trying to go with the bishop to c6. White improves queen, bishop comes to c6, pawn is attacked on e4. White plays f3. So since white has a space advantage, it's difficult for black to create counterplay in this situation. In general, such positions with a Marasi bind are considered to be favorable for white. Okay, black offers trades of bishops, and it looks like white should trade, but see what Magnus Carlsen is doing here. He moves bishop back. White avoids the exchange of bishops because it would be easier to play for black if such exchange happens. For example, the b6 square might become available for black queen. So far bishop controls b6, but if bishops are exchanged, then queen comfortably can come to b6. Okay, black tries to attack on queen side with a5 move. White plays b3. Now, if black tries a4, white will simply play b4, grabbing more space. So black improves knight, and white so far controls any counterplay on queen side. Okay, black brings queen, still trying to counterplay on the queen side. However, it's not very clear how exactly black can achieve something meaningful play on this side. So Magnus Carlsen brings rook. Now black regroups with rook f c8. But let's see what if black proceeds with queen b4, blocking our b4 move and preparing a4. We can play queen b2, and the idea is that if black goes with a4, they lose. Let's see what happens. Black plays a4, white grabs material, playing a3. Now black has only bad options. So if black goes queen a5, then fork. If black goes back with queen b6, then pin here and knight attacked by pawn. And if black decides to take pawn, let's say instead of we played a3, okay, oh sorry, we played a4, a3, and black grabs pawn, then queen is trapped. Go queen a1, and black cannot do much. Queen has no moves, white is winning here. Okay, but queen b4 was not played, so black regroups rook. Okay, so rook comes to c8. Now Carlsen improves rook, and black goes back with the queen, regrouping for the defense and admitting that it's difficult to create any play on the queen side. Okay, now Magnus Carlsen improves bishop a little bit. Black plays h5. Potentially it stops g4 at some moment, but creates extra weaknesses on king side. Okay, let's see what happens next. a3, preparing b4. Black regroups king, potentially bishop h6 at some moment if queen comes, maybe trying to trade. Okay, white also plays king h1. Prophylactics here, preventing any tactical chances for later on this diagonal. Maybe also opening g file for the rook somewhere in the future. Okay, black regroups bishop, and Carlsen increases his advantage in space on the queen side. Okay, now knight pushed back, it's attacked, knight regroups. Okay, and white goes forward, placing knight on d5 outpost. Basically, white is increasing pressure. The trades of pieces in general should help black here. However, taking on d5 is not a good option for black because it would make white's attack stronger. So black avoids this take, plays rook a3, placing rook on third rank, and Carlsen goes forward on king side now. Notice first the attack happened on queen side, now king side attack happens. Further, so now bishop pushed back and knight is pushed back. Knight goes back, increasing pressure on 7. Trade happens, but it didn't help black much. Now white queen sits in an attacking position and the defense becomes even more difficult for black. Notice that queen is attacking b7, f7. This is fork at the moment. Black plays a6. Trade happens and white grabs pawn. Okay, now black grabs bishop and transformation happened. Now Carlsen converted his space advantage into the material advantage. Next important step for white is to consolidate its position to prevent the opponent from creating any counterplay. Okay, black activates queen and white takes under control important diagonal, also protecting e4 pawn. Okay, king h6, trying to get bishop to the game, trying to play bishop e5 because bishop was previously pinned. Okay, queen is pushed. So some check here, stopped. Queen d3, attacking rook, and white completed the consolidation of his pieces. Now everything is connected and protected for white. Okay, let's see what black is trying to do next. Bishop e5, trying to attack somehow here with h4. So Carlsen simply starts pushing his pawn forward. And black plays h4, trying to open diagonal and create some attack, maybe some checkmating possibilities. White still takes pawn, queen e3. So now what black is planning? Obviously queen f4, trying to create battery. And queen f7 stops it. No more battery. Okay, now black tries to bring knight to the game. Knight is attacked anyway. So white opens black king. So now trade of pawns happens. White grabs pawn with check. Black king is open as well. And now white is attacking. Black is counter-attacking, trying to create something on the back rank. Take, take. And white plays careful move. Queen f5. Notice it's never let you lose a winning position. For example, if white simply pushes pawn forward, then black wins. Check. Bishop blocks and checkmate. Of course, it didn't happen. So white plays queen f5. Now queen is ready to cover the back rank. So bishop d4. Another checkmate in one move threatened. But nobody sleeps here. Carlsen prevents it as well. Everything covered. White has pawn moving forward. Black king is open. White has material advantage. Game is basically over. Now knight comes. Some threats of knight f2. This knight is traded. Check is blocked by rook. And notice that white is ready to attack this king as well. For example, queen f8 can be played. Black maybe misses under time pressure, and now white attacks. Black was trying to create some chances, some checkmating possibilities, but now white really checkmates here. Check. So, and game is over. Black resigned at this moment, and white resigned. We can easily see if king moves, checkmate, and one move follows, and white wins. Now we're ready to go to our next example. In this game, former world champion Vasily Smyslov demonstrates how to play with a space advantage. Smyslov plays white. His opponent is Christian Gudmundsson from Iceland. Okay, let's see what happens here. Regular opening. And Smyslov plays flexible move. This is not main theoretical option, way more popular c4 or g3. Okay, black plays normal. White places bishop on long diagonal. Now we can see what Smyslov is doing. He is going for flexible double bishop fianchet. Okay, black plays d6. For example, here black can play d5 instead, and maybe it would be switched to symmetrical Grunfeld. Okay, but d6 was played, normal move. Black again plays normal move, attacks d4 pawn, and white castle. And now black makes serious strategic mistake. He developed knight on c6 and provoking d5. But d5 is very good for white because it allows white to grab a lot of space. What black should do, instead of moving knight to c6, simply trade on d4 and continue playing. But knight c6 was played. Okay, Smyslov grabs space in the center and pushes black knight to the edge of the board. Knight moves. Now c4, supporting pawn chain. Black plays a6, preparing b5, trying to attack white center from the side. Okay, this happens. b5 was played. White grabs more central space. A large space advantage such as this allows white to have long-term initiative, because white can transfer his forces quickly from one part of the board to another whenever it's necessary. Okay, let's see what happens next. Rook b8. Maybe some tactical chances here. Bishop is unprotected. If trade happens, bishop would be hanging. Okay, bishop moves, no more tactics, no more bishop on b2. Queen c7 looks like regular move, but it's a mistake, because Smyslov notices that black queen and rook are aligned on his diagonal. This detail allows white to advance his central pawn, because black would lose the exchange if they take on e5. So white pushes pawn. If black takes, bishop takes, this is skewer, queen moves, and white has decisive material advantage. Black obviously noticed it and moved knight. Now trade of pawns happened and trade of bishops. But let's talk about this trade of bishops. In general, such trades are good for the side that lacks space. Here black lacks space. But in this specific position, the trade helps white to create kingside attack later, because it weakens black king. So overall, trade is good for white. So trade happened. Now white plays rook e1, taking e-file under control. Alternatively, they can start moving queen to c3, bringing queen to long diagonal, also aiming at a5 knight. But rook e1 was played, f6, trying to prepare a square for the knight. White plays queen c1, preparing to transfer queen to c3. Knight goes to the middle. Fork is threatened. We should be careful when we play strategy game. Tactics might happen anyway. So white plays prophylactic moves. Now d3 is covered. c4 is overprotected. Everything fine here. Now knight is ready to go to h4. Why? Because we need to displace knight on e5. We need to play f4. So black trades and plays rook 8. Okay, engine marks this move as a mistake. I don't think it's a mistake actually, because the engine line something like g5, pushing black knight but creating more weaknesses. Knight goes back, bishop goes, looks at d3, so queen comes, and white pushes black knight back anyway. I don't think it's big improvement in practical game. Black still in difficult position, so rook f8 looks like normal. Okay, Smyslov grabs more space and pushes black knight back. White has a decisive advantage. So knight moves. Now queen comes. Again, queen on long diagonal. Also looks at a5 knight. So black king is so far tied to the defense. Trade. Another trade that is not helping black much, because white is controlling e file. Okay, black tries to regroup knight. White takes more space, pushing bishop back, and there is weakness here on f6. So Smyslov notices and attacks f6 square second time. Only king protects. So black is barely holding here, but still defense is possible. Queen comes. Okay, now white grabs more space and threatens g5. Simply attacking f6 one more time. h6. Okay, now trying to prevent g5, but opening up more. Another weakness, g6. So white brings bishop. Now both bishop and knight looking at g6. Now black is going all in. They're trying to counterattack, but they are opening up more. Now Smyslov goes for tactical finish. If the knight on h4 is taken after knight g3, then white pieces quickly enter the black territory, finishing the game in a few moves. And this happens. So black grabs knight, white knight checks, king moves, take. And I don't know, bishop a4, probably trying to remove bishop from attacked square. And knight h5, game is over basically. Queen threatens checkmate with the help of knight, rook is cutting off. Not much to do. Black plays knight e5, tries to cover. White simply takes knight. Now black king is completely open, and white pieces are sitting nearby. Not much can be done, so black resigned here. We are done with our examples of space advantage. Today, the key takeaway is that space in chess gives you the gift of mobility and flexibility, allowing you to dictate the flow of the game and restrict your opponent's options. Remember to avoid unnecessary trades, support your advanced pawns, and always look for ways to expand on different wings. Now it's your turn. Try to apply these strategic ideas in your own games. Pay attention to how gaining space can change the dynamics of the game. And please let me know in the comments how it goes. If you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more chess tips and lessons. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.